Tomorrow's Louisiana State Bon Commission is voting on a financing plan to possibly renovate the Superdome up to the tune of $450 million, which potentially could keep the New Orleans Saints around here playing for an extra 30 years. We love that. Governor John Bel Edwards is stopping by here with us this morning. How's the shoulder feel, Governor?
Feels fine. That was a lot of fun. I wasn't especially pleased with my performance, but it was a lot of fun to go there. Boy, was it hot, though.
Yes.
Holy cow, it was hot. But it was great to be with Mrs. Benson and so many members of the team. And as you know, Drew Brees, he's not just a great player and a champion player, but he's a tremendous citizen as well. And so we had a lot of fun.
I know your friend Ed Ogeron probably gave you a text and asked you to keep an eye on the young Balin Breeze as he was the star of the quarterback challenge.
Yeah, he's good, and he's I think he's got the right genes for it for sure. But no, he was an excellent thrower of the ball and passer, and really a fine young man too.
Governor, one person that we are a massive fan on in this program is Miss Gayle Benson. What she has done, taking over the Pelicans, the Saints, the leadership she displayed outside looking in, it's just been pretty incredible. What's it like dealing with her? Like one-on-one like that? What's it been like watching her rise after some kind of personal tragedy with losing her husband?
Well, first of all, she's a very pleasant person. Whether it's a social event or whether you are meeting on business, as we've been doing for months now, just to work through getting the Superdome renovated so that it remains a competitive venue for decades to come, and also so that we keep the Saints as the tenant there, the leading tenant in the Superdome for some decades to come as well. But she's doing a tremendous job, in my opinion, and there's so much excitement around the Saints and around the Pelicans, the teams, the players, the coaches. I mean, you name it. And I just believe she's responsible for an awful lot of that, and it's been a pleasure to deal with her and the team that she's assembled as well. And that's why I was down there on Monday, as to announce that we had been working with them and that we have a plan where the Saints, the Stadium and Exposition District, a lot of people call it the Superdome Commission, and the state will jointly undertake the renovations, about $450 million worth over the next 3 to 4 years, to make sure that the Superdome remains a really leading venue around the country for Super Bowls, but for a lot of things, and we're excited about that. We're also excited about keeping them for another 30 years, so we hope that once we get past this week with the Bond Commission that meets tomorrow, they would approve the first part of the financing plan for the renovations through the LSCD, and then we would be able to sit down with them and ink that long-term deal to keep the Saints in New Orleans. And so I think that's a win-win for everyone because we know what the Saints mean to the city and to the state, to fans, and really all over the Gulf Coast. I know you know that, T-Bob, but we actually have season ticket holders that come from Mobile, Alabama, and Jackson, Mississippi. So you name it. It's very important.
Well, and then we were talking about it yesterday. The Superdome in and of itself is pretty unique because, like, when you think about the New Orleans skyline, right, your kind of classic view, the Superdome is it's critical to that skyline. And I guess my next question would be, in an age where new stadiums are popping up constantly, right? It's all about keeping up with the Joneses, about being competitive. It's how you win things like the 2024 Super Bowl. How do you plan on what are the upgrades that will keep the Superdome relevant all the way through 2035?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was asked this question the other day in New Orleans. We never gave any thought to building a new stadium because the Superdome is in exactly the right location. It is within walking distance to tens of thousands of hotel rooms in downtown New Orleans. And it's since that dome was built, many other dome stadiums around the country have been built and torn down. And so it has been a great venue for a long time. And if we will just make upgrades to it periodically, we'll keep it as a very competitive facility. And so there will be more detail on the renovations and what they're going to look like. But there are certain things that are being incorporated into newer dome stadiums that we want to go back and retrofit the dome to accomplish. There's almost no natural light that gets into the dome now. We think that needs to change, and there's a plan to do that. There's some compliance issues with the Americans with Disabilities Act, so we got to make it more accessible for fans with disabilities. There are certain parts of the Superdome that really occupy a lot of space, but they're not being used, and so replacing those parts of the Superdome with new spaces that may be concessions or lounges or you name it. But for example, the ramps that walk up, people just aren't really using those anymore, but they occupy so much space. So there's a lot of things, including down on the field level, back behind the goalposts, having the bunker level standing room space that fans can occupy. I mean,
like the Cowboys have.
Yes, and so you see that sort of thing taking a route around the league, and it's something that our fans have told us that they would like to see in the Superdome, and so we're talking about making those changes as well. And so anyway, it's a lot of things contemplated. It's all very exciting. It'll play out over the next 3 to 4 years in 3 stages. And the first thing we have to do, though, is tomorrow get the Bond Commission here in Baton Rouge to approve the first part of that financing piece that'll come through the LSED, and then we'll be on our way.
Yeah, how creative does the construction schedule have to be with phased construction when you have a venue that already have events on the books?
Yeah, and they're going to keep the major events, and so I want people to understand that there's certain things that the Superdome's going to continue to do, whether it's the Sugar Bowl, obviously the Saints games, the Sugar Bowl, Essence Festival, some other things like that. But when those things are not taking place is when you're going to see most of the construction going on, and so they've got a plan to get this done in this phased approach, and I think it's going to work. And one of the things that I'm excited about is you have a joint effort now where the Saints organization is going to be putting up significant resources to make this happen, in addition to the Stadium and Exposition District and the state of Louisiana. So this is going to be a joint effort, and that's why I think that it's going to be so warmly received by the legislature and by people all across the state.
Governor John Bel Edwards joining us here off the bench, ESPN New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Alexandria. We talked about you being a part of the quarterback challenge earlier this week, but you and Drew Brees were on social media launching the Veterans First Business Initiative. Tell me a little bit more about this program.
Yeah, so that's why one of the reasons I was saying that Drew Brees is such a fine individual and great citizen. So he is helping to launch this Veterans First Business Initiative where in cooperation with the Department of Veterans Affairs here in Louisiana, the Louisiana Department of Economic Development is going to certify businesses as being veteran-owned. We will give them a logo that they can use to let the public know that they're a veteran-owned business, and they can use that in their storefront and their advertising. And we're going to have a public service announcement campaign across the state of Louisiana on TV and billboards so that Louisianans know when they see that designation that what it means. And we're also creating a searchable database so that and we have thousands of veteran-owned businesses out there, and they range from everything from barbershops to farms to restaurants and plumbers. I mean, you name it, law firms and dental practices. And if somebody wants to do business with a veteran-owned business in their area, they can go online and search that database at laveteransfirst.org, laveteransfirst.org, and find out whether there is a veteran-owned business in their area of the type that they're looking for. And then we're encouraging Louisianans to then do business with those veteran-owned businesses because it helps people transition from military life to civilian life. It's hard enough, as you know, to start a small business, and it's not just for veterans, by the way. This is going to also be for family members of the Gold Star. So if they lost someone in service to the country,
wow,
that they're going to be able to take advantage of this too. So we're excited about it. It's the first program of its type in the country, and Drew Brees he's participating in that, and so we know that it's going to do a lot of good, and we think it's going to be quickly emulated, that other replicated or whatever around the country, that other states are going to see what we've done here for our veterans and try to do the same.
Governor, it's always good to hear from you. Thanks for stopping by this morning.
T-Bob, thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll be back with more Off the Bench from T-Bob's dad.